Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Sherdog.com. You are here in the trenches on the Sherdog.com YouTube channel. I am Ant Walker. Of course, I have to introduce my esteemed co-host, a man who needs no introduction, but I have so much fun introducing him. I'm gonna just do that shit anyway. Yes, he is an exceptional human being. He is a pillar of society. He's one of those people that you wanna raise your kids just like him. He's a great man. He's a great father. He's apparently a great boyfriend. Um, he's also my friend. He's your friend. He's Chachi's friend. He is Jason Burgos, Captain Credential. Jason Burgos. How are you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing good. I was hoping to get to see Shazam today. Didn't get to see Shazam. Life gets in the way. NYCHA housing projects get in the way. So I'm a little disappointed by that. Had some fun at the arcade. Played some video games. I haven't played this in years. I got to play a little Marvel versus Capcom.
Oh,
the classic with the arcade game and hitting the buttons. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but got to use Wolverine, Venom, Doctor Doom. It really made my day a lot better. But other than that, plan to watch a little Avengers Infinity War after this. Prepare myself for Saturday, 1:00, Avengers Endgame. What time are you going to see the damn movie?
I am actually going to see it for the first time. I'm going to see it tomorrow afternoon. My boss, who so graciously allows me time off to go to do this MMA stuff, he's also a big comic book nerd, and he paid for tickets for The Office to go see it. And it's a paid day too. So I'm going to get paid a full work day to go see Avengers Endgame. As you can see, I'm ready. I'm ready. It's time to rock, baby. I'm so excited.
Are you really ready though? I mean, I hear people are crying often. I'm not ready. I'm just not ready.
I am a deeply unemotional person sometimes. So perhaps I'm sure that's not a shocker to you. My wife would disagree, but hey, what does she know? She only lives. So I'm going to be okay. I think I'm anticipating Captain America's death. I think most of us are. I am a big Captain America fan, and I will be dressed accordingly to pay tribute to one of my all-time favorite superheroes tomorrow. Also, I'm really, really anticipating pretending like I didn't see the movie on Friday. So that I can pretend it's all new when I see it with my wife Sunday.
So she doesn't know at all about this.
She anticipates, but I don't.
I hope she doesn't watch this podcast. I guess she clearly does not watch this podcast.
She does not watch this podcast. She is not home yet. And also, she does not have a Twitter account. So I think I'm good to go here. And I don't accept anybody's friend request on Facebook. So there's that. You snitches.
I saw a story and it was funny. It was betting odds on who would die, and supposedly they can't do this in America, like in betting. So it was like from a UK site, and it really hurt my heart. Captain America 1-to-1 betting odds to bite the dust at the end of this movie. That really bothered me. I mean, I give up Tony Stark and his 2-to-1 any day of the week to keep Cap around much longer than this.
I mean, I think, you know what? I'm also not sure it may be possible that we don't really lose any major character in this because, Marvel has become very good at a lot of disinformation.
Yes.
Like, you remember the Spider-Man Homecoming trailer where they had that scene of Iron Man flying alongside Spider-Man swinging the building? And that was just
Hulk in Wakanda.
Yeah, Hulk in Wakanda. Yeah, exactly. So they have these set in place just to fool us and to keep us guessing. So I don't know, like the information about Chris Evans' contract. Also, I have no idea. We have no idea what's going on. We actually have some participation on the YouTube chat specifically to this. Designated member, who's also affectionately known as Europe One in the Sherdog forum, is telling everyone that my story about my boss being that nice is a lie. No boss is that nice. He is that nice. He's a great man. Love him to death. He's like a big brother to me.
Does he watch this podcast?
He has before. He has before. He's been a big supporter of my MMA journalism journey. Journalism and journey, 2 words that probably shouldn't be said next to each other. But y'all feel me. Y'all know what I meant. So also unemployed Mario Yamasaki says, good evening, fellas, as well. So good evening to you, Mr. Yamasaki. I hope the job hunt is going very well for you. All right, so we do have a fair amount of things to get to today. We both have some plans that we need to attend to, so we can't.
Oh, I don't have any plans. I'm done.
Oh, you're done. Oh, you just finished early.
I was my plans. I was wondering before the show, but I'm done. I can stay here all night if you like.
Oh, okay. Oh, sweet. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how long it takes my wife to get home, and we got some dinner plans tonight. But hey, maybe we're just gonna be in this mofo all night. You never know. All right, so let's go ahead and drop the first question, and that first question is going to go courtesy of Europe One, aka designated member, and he asks, "How does a random teenager like Arman Sarkar, how do you pronounce this? Sarukian. There we go. That's it. Get in the UFC and be super competitive with a top 15 fighter in their deepest division? Is he the best prospect in the world, or does it indicate something bigger about Islam or the martial arts world?"
I think the one thing is it has to just give a lot of credit to the UFC scouting department and just their web of connections over the world to be able to find this guy when maybe some people out of that region don't know him. But the fascinating thing is I remember watching a fight and I picked Sarukian to win. I got it wrong in my Sherdog picks, but his stats look pretty good, and they said that in fight week he had like a gleam in his eye, like he knew something no one else did, and clearly he knew he can give this guy a serious test. He probably thought he could beat him. He didn't, but it was still a very good fight. The wrestling was fantastic in that fight. And like I tweeted for all the people who boo or woo during wrestling in MMA, this is what great wrestling is. Don't boo wrestling. Boo the people that can't wrestle at this level. But I think it's just it's just one of those things. We don't know a person while the UFC does, and the UFC probably saw something, and a lot of people wondered about. I think he fought Makhachev, I forgot how you say his name, but the guy he fought is a top prospect, and a lot of people wondered, oh, he's kind of going down level. Well, clearly he didn't, and maybe the UFC knew that this was a legit test. So I think it's more of a thing where it just showcases what good scouting can do, and not necessarily a shocker. And this guy's the best prospect in the world, and it could just be a good matchup. He might go fight somebody else next time around and get put on ice. So who knows?
Yeah, I do appreciate the sort of the meta perspective that we're being asked about in this question, but I wouldn't indicate it as something bigger as opposed to Islam or the martial arts world necessarily. But I do think there's some intersection between the two, because obviously to be successful in the martial arts world, you have to be tough in some way, shape, or form. At least if you're a legitimate martial artist. If you're like one of those guys who does like combat key or whatever, you're a clown. But if you do an actual competitive martial art where you actually touch somebody and they touch you back, and the purpose of touching is to hurt one another, there's an inherent toughness that is there. But you're also talking about in some of these, and not this isn't solely a product of Islamic countries, but there is a lot of just tough people from these regions of the world. We could say all we want about tough upbringing in the United States, and there are definitely some hard knock stories out there. But man, when you're talking about some other countries, oh my goodness, these people are just bred in this tougher, just more challenging environment. Yeah. So you put them in a tough, challenging environment that's disguised as a competitive sport, they tend to do better than others.
What this sort of reminds me of is like inner city basketball players that come out of places like New York or DC or some of those different kind of cities where it breeds a toughness, like coming out of that Dagestan or that part of Eastern Europe, man, with mix of a sambo wrestling background, you can't help but be tough as nails.
Exactly. I mean, if you are from a tougher environment, expect a tougher product, and that's just what we have here. I mean, let's not forget about this influx of Dagestani fighters, this influx of guys from Eastern Europe and stuff. The people that have these just inherently hard upbringings, and they end up being inherently tough, hard human beings. And that's just kind of what it is. There's a reason why Brazilian fighters dominated MMA for quite some time at a particular point. There's a reason why these people from the Caucasus region are so dominant right now, because that's just what it is. But I think that's a very simple way to answer what otherwise would probably be a very, very complex question. All right, so Jay put in the notes for our questions here. If we had any thoughts about UFC St. Petersburg, that was a card that I wasn't exactly too enthused about. I know you weren't exactly too enthused about, and quite frankly, I was on vacation and did not watch it through back to back like I normally would, or do my normal post fight show. But Jason, any thoughts that you want to share with myself and with everyone listening about UFC St. Petersburg?
I mean, it was an interesting card in that it was so heavy on fighters from the region. Unless you're following those fighters closely on UFC or just know the region well, you like both of us were kind of just like, I don't know most of these guys. Plus it's for our jobs that you got to cover so many different promotions, so many different fights. But I mean, the only takeaway for me was I remember I got into debates with people when Alexander Volkov was switched out with Alexei Olenek, and people would tell me, "Oh, Olenek might be dangerous. Maybe he has enough power to hurt him, all this stuff." And Overeem did exactly what I figured he'd do. Olenek tried his shot and tried to get his chin. He played rope-a-dope, and then he just destroyed that man only like the Demolition Man could, and he made quicker work than I expected of Alexei Olenek.
Yeah, I mean that main event kind of went the way we thought it would. When you're talking about getting Alistair Overeem into a realm where you can submit him, you're talking about a very dangerous game, because he's not a guy who's just going to fall for your standard double leg too often. You're not going to get him down that way necessarily. Good luck getting into the clinch with this man and surviving. And that was exactly where Olenek had his undoing, was in the clinch. And this is we're talking about the same guy who ran through the K1 Grand Prix solely based on his clinch game. So I'm just not I just wasn't seeing where Olenek would have success. Of course, if some wild scramble ensued, or a banana peel randomly fell into the cage and Overeem were to slip upon it, then yes, there would be some danger there. But that's just not the case. I mean, that like the wisdom should have prevailed on that one. Now, as far as the way I watched this card was kind of the opposite of what you thought you would think. Like, so normally if we take an event off to just kind of live our lives and not be MMA media people for one Saturday out of the year, typically what we'll do is we'll skip the prelims. We might watch the main card, or we watch the main event. And that is generally because in a card that's essentially kind of a throwaway, you can get away with not watching the entire thing and still be fairly up to date and fulfill your job duties effectively. But this time, because the prelims were on ESPN, and I think ESPN2, and then the main card was on ESPN Plus, I actually watched the prelims while I was having breakfast with my wife and my mom. And then once the ESPN Plus portion came on, I like, my mom's my mom's smart TV didn't have the ESPN app. And I'm like, I don't feel like going through all this. So I'll check it later. So I did that. Yeah. And I claimed my Saturday. That's what's up. Yeah, but it was nice to wake up early and then get greeted by a spinning back kick to the face to start off the morning. So that's what's up. I'll take it. All right, so let's what the hell did I do with this damn screen here? I got all this stuff all over the place. Okay, question 2 is from Jetty and the Benz. Yes, should teammates, coaches, or managers snitch on fighters they know are on PEDs? We often hear other fighters say after the fact, I know that guy was on steroids. So before I kick that question to you, Jason, just a little backstory for everyone who isn't paying attention. I mean, this TJ Dillashaw EPO thing has kind of started the fires of snitching culture in mixed martial arts. And of course, we had a little flirtation with this with John Jones's deal with USADA that got him out of hot water for the 214 positive test. So recently, Joseph Benavidez, I think he was interviewing with MMA Junkie, and he was talking about how he wasn't surprised that Dillashaw got popped for PEDs and saying this has been going on for a while and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And now we're kind of at this weird crossroads where it's like, okay, do we want guys to be snitching? Do we want this to be snitching culture, I guess, to invade mixed martial arts? Or do we want the bond between teammates to stay that? And Jetty and the Benz is on something here with this question. So, Jason, please give us your take on what you think about teammates, coaches, managers snitching on fighters as far as PEDs are concerned.
I mean, ethically, yeah, they should. I mean, because yeah, it's their teammates and friends and stuff like that, but it's a greater issue for the greater good of the sport. And in the end, if they're enhanced on a level and they're hurting people, that's not a good thing. That's not ethically or morally the right thing to do. But asking them to snitch on them is like asking you, Jetty and the Benz, to snitch on your brother or sister or mother or father because they are either using or dealing drugs. It's the kind of thing like when you build a relationship in a gym, I mean, that is a brother sisterhood. You get close with these people, grinding every day, fighting, training, suffering, crying, celebrating. You become a family. That becomes your second family, and you spend as much time with them as your family. So it's like, yeah, you should probably give your family if they're dealing weed or selling crack, but are you going to do it? I don't know. It's a moral thing, and it's up to the person. And also, the thing is, it's almost like we see in, say, police culture or certain other aspects where it's like you're ostracized also if you snitch on people. So even if they wanted to, they would probably be ostracized within the athlete coaching community, and no one wants that. No one wants to be the guy who isn't allowed to ATT and AKA to train. So it's unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen because you don't see it in any sport. You really don't see a whistleblowing in NFL or whistleblowing in MLB. I mean, you have Jose Canseco, but Jose Canseco was already a black sheep when he came out with his stuff. So ethically, yeah, but don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a tough one, and I can see it from both ways because you're someone who's trained in jiu-jitsu before. I've trained in martial arts as well, and you do develop a brotherhood with everyone you step on the mat with, and that is that's a sacred bond. They're lifelong friendships, and even if you're apart for years, like there's still a certain amount of love and brotherhood there that remains. So you don't want to sully that. And that, I think, is a very important part of the culture of mixed martial arts, as it is a big part of the culture of martial arts in general. But at the same time, it's like, what do we care about more? Do we care about that, or do we care about the integrity of the sport? And these are not questions that I want to answer for you as an audience, or you, Jason, as my friend and colleague. But just in general, these are questions that I think we should think about. But I don't like the whole, oh, I knew this all along. I really don't like that. I don't think that's particularly cool. I mean, let's not forget also that our favorite manager in mixed martial arts, Ali Abdelaziz, he had some tweet about TJ Dillashaw, and he said something to the effect of, I know at least 5 guys on EPO. And like, well, as a manager, unless these guys are under your tutelage, unless these are your clients, I mean, if they're your clients, definitely don't say that, bro, because that is totally against your wallet, their wallet, and the prospects of the careers of the guys you're in charge of. But if they aren't your fighters, you really should be saying something, because these guys are going to negatively affect your fighters, especially if they're all clean. So I think you paint yourself in a corner when you start saying, hey, I knew this all along, because it was all good for Joseph Benavidez, who for the record is a nice guy. I've interviewed him once or twice. He's a gentleman. I had casual conversation with him. I like him as a person, and I think he's a straight up dude. But it was all good when he was under the Team Alpha Male banner. When you guys were all together in that brotherhood, it was all good then.
Yep.
So even when he left and he left the Canada, it was still all good then.
Mm-hmm.
So now that things have kind of turned, and however things have played out between their friendship is what it is. Now it's not all good. I just don't like that. I don't like that inconsistency. It doesn't sit very well with me. I look at it as the equivalent of if you're friends with someone and you've got some deep secrets between each of you. You know some of their dirt and they know some of yours, and then something goes wrong with that friendship, and then you start spreading that dirt. Mm-hmm. That's what I look at it as, and I'm not fond of that. I can't condone that at all. But still, we need to decide, what do we care about more. And that goes for the fighters, coaches, managers, anyone who is directly affected by the PED issue in mixed martial arts. All right. So I haven't addressed much of the YouTube chat. Let's go ahead, take a look at that. Let's see here. So apparently, I misread the first question. The first question was asking about Islam Makhachev, not the religion of Islam. So
I think you summed it up well regionally more than religiously. So I think you fairly answered the question.
I mean, hey, I did it without doing it. I mean, that's how nice I am. I'm nice with this, skill. Okay? This is not just high level skill, Jason. Yeah. This is high level sexy. This is something that can't be taught.
I mean, I wasn't gonna go there, but fair enough.
Well, hey, I'm feeling myself today. What can I say? All right.
I mean, from what I've been told, you do resemble Greg Hardy. So, I mean.
Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that, you blind folks out there. All right. So this next question is from Dick Cheney, former vice president / face shooter. Dick Cheney and war criminal, but that's another story.
And I just watched Vice a couple days ago. Hate Dick Cheney. What a dick.
That was it Christian Bale played him, right?
Yep. It just made me mad. Like, it was good acting, but it just made me mad. That whole regime, just terrible stuff.
Oh man. Well, let's not go down the political rabbit hole, because I'll jump fully down that hole. And for all you people that want to tweet me, you need to shut your mouth. You need to shut your damn mouth. Stay off my timeline, baby. I say what I want to say. All right, so former Vice President Dick Cheney, big fan of the show, asks, who is and why is there a schmo?
Oh God.
Let me jump in and take this one. Schmo, I know this guy. He's a really nice guy. I nothing but good things to say about him as a person. I'm not too familiar with a lot of his content. I've watched a few things here and there, and he definitely has a gimmick. And if you talk to him, he will fully acknowledge it. Yes, he has a gimmick, and I don't really see what's wrong with that. I think there's a place for it. Because we all get kind of the same cookie cutter coverage out of most mixed martial arts outlets. We're gonna get. You're going to get the standard news from your Sherdog, from your MMA Junkie, from your MMA Fighting. You're going to get kind of that baseline thing, but the personalities that create that news or create the op-eds or that you see in front of the camera that have the microphone are what kind of stands apart and what lets everyone know that, hey, there are different personalities behind this, and they and they can shine. They can add their own personal perspective into this. And, Schmo is entertaining people. Like, that's what he's doing. He's a very smart guy. He's a really, really kind guy, and he knows what he's doing. And I got a lot of respect for him. I may not be the biggest fan of the gimmick, but it has its place. Not everybody can be Ariel Helwani. Not everybody can be Mark Raimondi. You gotta find your own lane, and he's doing that, and more power to him on that one. And a follow-up question from Bisexual MMA is asking, will I debate the Schmo one-on-one, or of course, if Mr. Burgos, my esteemed co-host, is involved, a 2-on-1 debate? So Jason, what do you say about that?
I mean, I would have no reason not to. I mean, the character isn't necessarily. It's a question of how well he stays in character, because the character doesn't seem like the brightest person in the world. But if I'm willing to debate anybody, especially on MMA. So I have no fear of debating the Schmo. Not a big fan of the Schmo. I mean, every point you made is fair. I guess I'm more bothered by the Schmo got a chance to interview Dana White for being the Schmo. But like one of us wouldn't even get a second look. That's kind of annoying about the whole thing, and that's what bothers me. We're on the grind, but the Schmo gets Dana White. A little annoying.
I see your point, but I will say that Schmo is on the grind too. I see him at all the events. I see him.
If he was on the grind, he wouldn't need to be the Schmo.
His grind is different. Like, people can say I have a gimmick. I wear my comic book shirts. I got my memorabilia behind me.
That's not gimmick. That's everybody now.
Well, that's true. That's true. They all trying to be like me. You're right.
Look, clearly it's everybody.
Like I said, everybody's trying to be like me. Yes, you included, Jason. Yes.
Sure.
Ridiculous. Frank McEgger says you're 100% correct. Frank McEgger, you are wrong.
Wait,
Well,
what?
I don't know. I just wanted to say,
Which one? Frank,
I just want to call you wrong about something.
Oh,
that's
okay.
all. That's all. And it's just pure animosity. Nothing, no harm behind it. Although, but no, I'll be willing to debate Schmo about MMA talk, because he is knowledgeable about the sport. He's a nice guy. I would be curious how much he can stay in character during that. He manages to stay in character for those like 2-3 minute interviews that comprise a lot of his YouTube page. He gets the views, and hey, I mean, things like that do stand out with Dana White, which is kind of funny. They do stand out, and
Schmo's not going to ask him any hard questions, so of course he stands out.
But you know what? Actually, he found a way to ask hard questions and get. He got a harsh response from Dana White, but it ended up playing in his favor. When asking about the 165-pound division and pressing him the way he did, it forced his hand, and he kind of had to respond on this big stage. What I'm more surprised about, that it took him that long to step up in the press conferences. I've sat with him at press conferences and at some of the weigh-ins and things like that, and he'll talk to you if you're standing beside him, but he won't really take the mic in those circumstances. The media days, he'll make his rounds and create his content. But hey, I'm all for anybody covering the sport in a responsible fashion, and if it is entertaining, doesn't necessarily mean that it's irresponsible. I take a look at my buddies Submission Radio, Dennis and Casper, and Christian, their videographer. The nicest guys you'll ever meet, very knowledgeable about the sport, great interviewers, but they don't cover the sport in a perspective of breaking news or like hardcore journalists. They are there functioning in a capacity to entertain as opposed to inform. And I do think there is a place for that in the media space. Not everybody can be ESPN or MMA fighting. Like that's just what it is. So the more the merrier. I'm willing to respect anybody who's putting in the hard work and creating good content. All right. And yes, you are wrong, Jason. I don't know about what. I just wanted to say it again. So, question 4 from Tomas. Yes, how will Alexander Volkanovski handle the pressure of fighting in Brazil against 3-round Jose Aldo?
Jay, if you can tell me, how old is Volkanovski? Because, a key always is for someone, when in a situation like that, age and inexperience can really benefit someone in a high pressure moment like that. And that could be a type of thing where, pressure is not on him. But I don't know. I mean, some people see things differently. To us, we go, geez, Jose Aldo, without having to go 5 rounds in Brazil. Oh, he's 30? He's probably older than I expected. That's it's a tough moment. That's all for Aldo. That's how you going to deal with that. Some people get excited by that. Some people like to be on the side of being the hated villain and everybody boo, and that pumps them up and that gets them energized. So, I don't know. I don't. He's been doing well. He fought Mendes. That was a pressure fight. I feel like he got another win against somebody else good recently. If you could tell me, Jay, like his last 2 or 3 wins, but I don't think it's anything crazy. The Jose Aldo aura has kind of worn off. After losing to Conor, 2 losses in the Holloway, he's still very good. But like that MMA deity that he was for a little bit there, he was just unstoppable. That's kind of gone. It's just like I'm sure Volkanovski's pumped and excited and is ready to go. I don't think he's probably nervous or scared about this opponent.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that boat as well, man. Volkanovski certainly has a tough challenge in front of him, but Chad Mendes was a tough challenge. Like there are a lot of challenges out there that you're going to face at a top level of a division like featherweight. Mm-hmm. So this is what he came prepared to do. Now, I will say this: we haven't seen full-fledged 3-round Jose Aldo in a long time. To see him in his pre-title fight days, and that's
wasn't his last 2-3 rounds.
Well, they just went away so quickly. We didn't see him sustain a pace and all that, and probably that contributed to those quick finishes. Mm-hmm. But I would like to see how Volkanovski handles such a buzzsaw like Jose Aldo can be in a 3-rounder. But yeah, it doesn't stand out to me as extra special of a fight, other than the fact that you have one of the all-time greats in Aldo versus, a top prospect and possible future champion in Volkanovski. So outside of those immediate stakes, I can't take away much other meaning from it. And I think we'll just have to see what happens when they get there. Volkanovski knows that he's up against a murderer.
Yeah.
And if you step in the cage against Aldo and you think anything less, probably going to be the last thought you have before waking up in the hospital. So I am looking forward to the fight. But let's before we move on from that, let me go back to the chat for just a second here. Sean 37 says, "What up, fellow Sherdoggers?" He also says that the Schmo better not lose his glasses or he's fucked. So
why is that?
Because those glasses that he wears, these big glasses that have the yellow tint, and that's just kind of his thing. So I don't know. Yeah. So all right. And also I missed a follow-up question about the snitching and the PEDs. This question is from Robbie. He asks, 4 fighters just tested positive for Ostarine, and all 4 got off for quote-unquote contaminated supplements and are fighting again soon. What's up with that? Tom Lawler got 2 years for that same drug.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the Tom Lawler story earlier today. That's fucking messed up. I don't know the specifics. I didn't get to read. I just saw like the headline. Is it because USADA changed their guidelines and after further review they see that enhancement as not as enhancing as they thought? Like, how does that change? How do you go from saying 2 years suspension for something down to like a few months? I haven't seen why.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to read the stories in detail, but I would assume, I mean, we've seen this.
Jay typing. I think Jay's got something. I see him typing. Got something.
Yep. So I mean, one thing for sure, we know that the understanding of the science is evolving right now. That's one thing for sure. But I do think it speaks to, and I don't want to go full Luke Thomas on this. As far, I'm not praising PEDs or whatever. But I do think it's going to be a lot of ruffled feathers as the science evolves and they start having a better understanding and their philosophy on how to deal with doping. It evolves with the science. Because can you imagine a case? And then, granted, there's still a lot of skepticism around this, and understandably so. But can you imagine a case like John Jones, like 3-4 years ago? That sounds preposterous. That this would even be entertained, but the science is evolving. So therefore the rulings have to evolve. The perspective of things has to evolve. But there really needs to be there really just needs to be some sort of actual human understanding in the way they deal with these things, that everything isn't necessarily cookie cutter, that there has to be some sort of nuance to how these rulings are handed out. And I think Tom Lawler and possibly Frank Mir as well, granted his was for Turinabol, oral Turinabol, if I'm not mistaken, that there has to be some sort of nuance in dealing with these cases, because bad things happen sometimes, intentional or not. And if you can't fully prove someone did something wrong, are we going with guilty until proven innocent, or innocent until proven guilty? That's kind of where we should make that known. Which direction are we leaning in, and then base the guidelines from that point of view, in my opinion. All right. So we got a question here on the chat, also from Sean 37. Yes, Mike Perry did a scrum where he was complaining about the weight cut being pretty bad. Do you think he could just be trolling?
I said again, I zoned out looking at the questions coming up with.
Wow. Captain Credential, your co-host, is zoning out?
I was looking at the Purple Storm question and trying to think of an answer before I got to it.
Wow, this trash. Trash Burgos. All right, Jason, do I have your attention?
No.
Does the Trenches Show have your attention, Jason?
Not yet.
One of our loyal watchers and listeners would like to ask you a question, Jason. Are you ready and prepared and paying attention? All right.
Yes.
All right, Sean 37. I apologize for his bad behavior. So apologize. He asked, Mike Perry did a scrum where he was complaining about the weight cut being pretty bad. Do you think he could just be trolling?
Like, what does he mean by trolling? Like, he's faking it to like psych out Oliveira, or he's just bitching, or he's like, what's he trolling on? Like, what?
I would assume trolling to get a psychological edge or something over an opponent or something.
Yeah.
Proceed, show some weakness, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, it could be, but he just seems like a guy that's so without filter on his thoughts from his brain. So he's probably just bitching about like the weight cut being difficult. I mean, he just seems like that kind of guy. Like he's just so open and honest to a fault that he's just complaining about a weight cut. And he's possibly letting his opponent know he's not fully 100%.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. I don't think there's any better way I can put it. Mike Perry isn't the guy who's gonna put out disinformation.
No.
Mike Perry to a fault just says what's on his mind.
Yeah.
So good or bad, whatever you hear from him is exactly how he feels in that moment. And he it's all on the sleeve, man.
Yeah.
So a designated member also wants to offer your lapse in concentration as further proof that the Frank McEdgar takeover is imminent. So, yes, next week on The Trenches, I'll be joined by my co-host, Frank McEdgar, who will be promoted to lieutenant credential.
Best of luck to you, Frank, in having to deal with this man. I have to deal with this man every week. Best of luck to you.
Jason, don't front. You love me. Don't front. You love me, man.
It's a hateful love.
This is the highlight of your week, okay? This is the highlight of your week. I'm the shit, okay? Don't you forget it.
It's the unsexiest part of my week.
That's just a blatant lie. This is the sexiest thing you could ever do. The sexiest thing that's going on right now in all of New York City is my face on your monitor. And don't you forget it.
From 8 to 9:30 gets as ordinary as it gets my entire week.
See the lies I have to put up with, the foolishness.
Enjoy.
Oh my goodness, Frank McEdgar, I can't wait for you to co-host the show with me. All right, so we're gonna finally move on to the Purple Storm question that had you so distracted. Of this weekend's fights, which have fireworks potential?
That's easy. Mike Perry, Oliveira. That fight is barn burner. That's got like a Korean Zombie versus Leonard Garcia kind of ridiculousness just set upon it. I mean, the only thing that could really mess it up is if Cowboy Oliveira or Cowboy Brazil chooses to take him down, which he very well probably should and will do. But that fight, that's the one that jumps out to me as really something really interesting and really fun. The Bellator card has some good fights, but I don't see anything, at least on the main card, as something that will stand out as being wild and crazy. Anything when Mike Perry has a chance to just freaking go right off the rails. And so I would always point to a fight with him, especially with Cowboy Oliveira. He's a wild man himself.
You know what? Had I taken this question first, I would give the same answer. But just so we don't agree on everything, I think one fight that we're overlooking as far as action quality is John Lineker and Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah, I don't know Sandhagen too well, so that's why. But Lineker's another guy. Yeah, he's always
Sandhagen's with the shits. Okay, he comes to brawl a lot of times. I mean, he put that hellacious beating on Yuri Alcantara of what was that? On the Gaethje and Vic card, I believe it was. Just a savage beating after being close to armbarred in the very opening seconds. So I think that's going to be my action pick. But Perry Oliveira, that's got violence all over it, and that's going to be pretty interesting. All right, so let's see here. Where do we have next? In fact, can you read the next question, because I don't know where I lost it on the screen?
Sure. So it's one of the wordiest questions of the bunch. Question number 6 from Ferrari. Thoughts on the UFC on ESPN3 madness? First, the change of headliner from Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa to Romero versus Jacare Souza because Costa allegedly failed the PED test, but Costa denies it. Now UFC changes the city and venue, and Romero pulls out of the rematch due to illness. Costa steps in, only he's not ready again. So Hermanson steps in on short notice, and they have the show off. Big ESPN. Oh, okay, so it's not going to be ESPN. I guess it's going to be ESPN Plus now. Yeah, the craziness of UFC Fort Lauderdale's main event has been snake bitten, to say the least. Romero versus Jacare was a great fight. I mean, I liked it a little bit more than Costa, just because Costa still jury's out kind of guy to me. But even Romero versus Costa on paper was like, Jesus, that should be interesting. But you know what? Jacare versus Hermes is not a very. That's not a bad fight. And for my Sherdog picks, I actually am picking Hermanson. As much as I love Jacare, I have been a big fan of his since Dream. I just feel like at some point being 39 years old has to hurt you. And Hermanson just seems like a guy that's pretty well rounded. So, but I mean, that's just life in, MMA fight booking. Things happen. And also I think the Costa thing was, didn't they say this week that they're still looking at his drug test? They're still evaluating it?
Yeah, like I guess they're trying Nowitzki said they're trying to get up to speed with the New York Commission as far as what exactly is going on there. As far as we know, it's some sort of like stomach medication that he took, but I mean, New York, it's a mess. What are you gonna do? Yeah. As far as my thoughts on the shuffle that's been this UFC Fort Lauderdale offering, how so appropriately Florida. Like, this is how Florida can MMA get. Like how MMA can Florida get, and how Florida can MMA get. Yeah. This is the perfect alignment of two worlds just filled with calamity and chaos. So I mean,
calamity is a good word that just whenever you can use it in a sentence, it really is like a triple point kind of Scrabble moment. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's got like calamity just gives me sort of a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner vibe.
Like you're expecting Acme to be somewhere around an Acme product.
Yeah, and if there's any place I'd expect an Acme product to be used in a harmful fashion, it would be the state of Florida. Yes. And if there's any sport that I would expect an Acme product to be used in a harmful fashion, it will be mixed martial arts. So how fitting that the two have this marriage of absolute anarchy. So there's that. All right, so our next question.
I'm gonna stand back and just watch the show on this one.
So the next question, apparently it was submitted to the forum but quickly redacted. However, our esteemed producer Jay was able to capture this fuckery so that I can share it with the world. The question reads, "Hey, Ant, have you ever noticed you kind of look like Greg Hardy?" No, I don't.
Does he even have a beard? Like he has the little beard on the chin, right?
He's got the soul patch or something.
Yeah,
like
he doesn't have all of this.
No, he doesn't have the lion's mane. No. The only thing I can say, okay, my hair now kind of stands up a little bit. Oh my God. Frank McEdgar was the one who dropped this question.
Really? Wow.
Uh-oh. So tune in next week for The Trenches, starring myself and Jason Burgos. Yeah, no, Frank Edgar, closet racist. No, me and Greg Hardy don't look alike. No, we don't look alike. But I've been told I look a lot like Tiger Woods. That's the main thing I used to hear.
I don't see that either.
Now, not so much. I think the beard and I've just kind of grown into my face a little more, so I don't look as much like him. But as a teenager, it was when he just turned pro, and there were people who would literally stop me and ask me if I was Tiger Woods. They were probably attending the same Klan rallies as Frank McEdgar. I don't know.
Or people in DC are dumb as rocks. I don't know what either.
There are a lot of dumb people just in general. But man, I don't know. I don't know Frank McEdgar. I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't look like Greg Hardy.
Like that is such a troublesome yet fascinating question that instead of what the great work that Ben Duffy did for our show image, a side by side of you and Greg Hardy as the image for this week's podcast could have been just as good.
You know what? That actually would have been dope. That actually would have been dope. Frank McEdgar says, I'm blacker than you, so I don't know.
Oh, he better be. He better be like bee pie eating, like straight up Malcolm X black.
Yeah, I'm proud to the people, Frank. Yeah, but yeah, that's just funny. That's just funny. So, no, I don't look like Greg Hardy. But while we're on the subject of one Greg Hardy, He's fighting again. Co-main event.
Oh man,
Jason, please take it away.
And then for all the shit they got, the UFC got. I mean, that time, man, UFC just don't give a damn. You can say whatever you want. They do not care what you say. For all the stuff they got about him being on the card with Rachel Ostovich, and on a lesser form, him being in the co-main event, which event I went to, and they had the out after that performance getting DQ'd for the low blow. They had the out like, he's not ready yet. We're still going to work with him, but he's going to be prelims. He's going to be early card. And they still go, boom, again, co-main event. I think what we discussed before that fight, like, what was it, 2 months ago now, and that ESPN clearly has a say in some of these decisions, and they see former NFL star in the UFC, there has to be something there. Because the UFC is smart. They get it. They can't say to them, be really saying to themselves, Greg Hardy's some kind of star that people want to see, and he needs to be in a co-main event, or that he's one of the best prospects like Yair Rodriguez, or even Bellator Aaron Pico, who's thought to be a super prospect. They don't want to put him in co-main events this quickly. So clearly ESPN has to have some influence that this shit is happening again. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly don't give a damn.
No,
I mean,
they will troll the hell out of us.
And you know, quite honestly, I'm surprised they didn't put Rachel Ostovich in the prelims just because.
Yeah,
seriously. Like, why not? Just why not? I mean,
like
really,
early prelims unaired.
Yeah. So this is the thing that trips me out about it, because of course Greg Hardy is a big name. Yeah. He is a name that will attract viewers. He will attract people, especially just the casual ESPN crowd. Yeah,
what's up? Interrupt, but CM Punk didn't even get co-main event. And at least you could say to the fan bases that blend over so well, this guy was like a superstar, really well-known, big name, like millions of followers. He wasn't even in the co-main event.
Well, they used him for the pay-per-view buys for 203. So
yeah, I'll give still not co-main event.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, but then on top of that, like, he proved he's not even a UFC worthy fighter.
Yes.
Like, so the idea that you, and excuse me, let me just look up this guy's name now before I forget it. Dmitry Smolikov. Mm-hmm. They had to dig him up to fight Greg Hardy. They had to dig him up to put in a co-main event spot. This is a guy who washed out of the UFC quite some time ago. Mm. They had to dig him up for the sole purpose of being used as a platform for Greg Hardy. Why are we insisting on giving a platform to Greg Hardy? And this is not, and I'm not saying this because of his past domestic violence issues or the fact that his apologies seem rather trash, from in my personal opinion. But he's not a fighter worthy of this spotlight. Mike Perry and Cowboy Oliveira are fighting underneath this. That's an excellent fight against two guys who are proven to be that were proven to actually be like good UFC quality fighters. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Glover Teixeira and Ian Kudalaba.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
Lineker, Sandhagen, like these are excellent fights.
Yep.
That have relevancy for the future of these divisions. And these are guys who are long-suffering veterans of the sport, who probably deserves that boost on ESPN a lot more than Greg Hardy, who had perhaps the worst UFC debut in history.
I mean, and we've seen with Bellator, this would seem like a Bellator thing, and we'd get it because they're trying to work their way to getting closer to the UFC. They're trying these things. They'll take these risks with named fighter and stuff like that. But even like Bobby Lashley wasn't a co-main event this fast. This dude that was Jack Swagger WWE, he was not a co-main. They have, if you want to go to a technical, legitimately qualified level, like I said, Aaron Pico, Ed Ruth, Joey Davis, legitimate national champions, highly credentialed athletes. In their first, they still have not even co-main anything. I don't think Ed Ruth versus Neiman Gracie in the Grand Prix was a co-main. I'm not sure. I don't think it was. They're not even co-maining. So that just says to you that really they have to be influenced by the ESPN and the whole NFL thing. And I asked Jay to let me know, because even Brock Lesnar, I wasn't even sure it was his first fights in co-mains. Jay says Lesnar's debut was co-main to Big Nog and versus Tim Sylvia. Then co-main and GSP Fitch headline 91, 100, 116, 121, and 141. And then I'm sure people thought that was ridiculous, but at least one, Lesnar was a huge name as a WWE superstar, main event in WrestleMania, and was a national championship wrestler. So if anyone would get that ridiculous jump, that sort of made some sense. This does not make any sense.
Well, you know what? Let's go back to the Brock Lesnar thing, because Brock Lesnar's debut in the UFC proved that he belonged there. Granted, it was a loss to Frank Mir, but he proved he belonged there. He fought effectively. He did a fantastic job stepping in there on his second mixed martial arts fight.
He didn't have one in Japan.
Against a decorated, an absolute decorated legend of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think he earned himself the right to co-main event after that. You saw what he did against what was his second fight? Was that Heath Herring?
Yep, Heath Herring. Yep,
he steamrolled Heath Herring. Like, he proved every step of the way that he belonged there. It wasn't until after he lost the title, until he got the title and lost it, that you started seeing real flaws in what he was doing. He was smashing everybody up until then.
And then he had the intestinal thing too. So who knows? Who knows how different his career would have been if he didn't have that too.
Yeah, and Greg Hardy so far has he dusted a couple of jobbers on the Contender Series, and once again, these were guys who were dug up for the specific purpose of losing to Greg Hardy. They dug up someone else for the specific purpose of losing to Greg Hardy for his UFC debut in a co-main event. Which, okay, I get it. You're trying to make a big splash on ESPN, so you put this guy up front. All right, didn't like it, but okay, here it is. And then he gets in that spot, and he can't do it. And in fact, when he gets in trouble, he illegally knees the guy in the head. So, where you see co-main event worthy after that, I don't know, other than the ratings. And I think this is clear that the UFC and or ESPN are, definitely want to see Greg Hardy on our television screens. Yep. And here we are talking about him. So success, fellas. And Frank McEgger says, he makes a good point. He said Greg Hardy being a real athlete, he says he is the reason why he's watching the card. I get that perspective. And this is, once again, this is without the moral objections that you may have to Greg Hardy as a person and what his past says about him. But he is a real athlete. He really is. He is a guy who proved himself on the NFL level, and we have always wondered what that caliber athlete would do in mixed martial arts. However, I think the last fight proved you got to be skilled.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like UFC, in the 2000s. There's a ton of great athletes then. Great athletes in NFL, probably hockey, probably rugby, clearly in WWE, that are probably morally less corrupt than him. And I mean, they're still like, I don't know. The athlete angle, he's an athlete, him and everybody else. This is an era where the UFC has a ton of fantastic athletes. You can't, like you just said, you need to be skilled. Being an athlete ain't enough no more.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, man. Frank McEgger, I mean, that co-host spot, man. We'll talk. We'll talk.
I guess maybe his connection with you is somewhat complimentary, since he is watching Greg Hardy. Since clearly he's a huge Greg Hardy fan, probably has posters on his wall of Greg Hardy. Does it for Halloween. Him saying you look like him is kind of a compliment. That's one of his favorite people.
Well, maybe it is a compliment. Maybe it is. Maybe he's complimenting the couch full of AK-47s that I have as well. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he feels you look hugely muscular in that Marvel, shirt right now.
I mean, it is true. I am hugely muscular. Yes. Mm-hmm. I am an elite athlete. Yes.
Give him a little guns.
We don't want the ladies, getting too riled up. We don't want my DMs all flaring up and whatnot.
Fair enough.
My DMs all flaring up. Oh man. But anyway.
Oh man.
All right, so I'm gonna look to the questions on my screen that way. Yeah, man. So that's kind of our take on this matter. But yeah, so next we're going to go to our poll question. The poll question asks, which event will you be watching live this Saturday? UFC Fort Lauderdale or Bellator 220? Will you just be watching the UFC? Will you just be watching Bellator? Will you watch both at the same time? Will you watch neither? Or will you be watching Avengers Endgame during those events?
That's a good one. I can see a lot of people watching Avengers Endgame. Jesus, based on the numbers, there's going to be a lot of people watching that over the UFC and Bellator. Me personally, I'll be watching Bellator. I have just a little bit more interest in some of the names on it. I mean, two of them I interviewed, Phil Davis and Lee Malane Farmer. I like Lee Malane Farmer. I always like watching her fights. Rory versus John Fitch is fascinating to me. I'm very curious on seeing how Rory bounces back from another beating. He's been in a lot of beatings. So you can only take but so much. He should be John Fitch, but I'm still curious. Ben Henderson versus Pickle is a fun fight. And Phil Davis versus Lee McGeary in the main event and a Cole rematch is a good fight. So those are intriguing fights to me. So I'm more interested in that than seeing Greg Hardy. Jacare Souza versus Hermans is a good fight, but if it was Jacare versus Romero or Costa, I'd probably prefer to watch that. I mean, there's good fights in UFC, but for me personally, for various reasons, I'm a little bit more intrigued by Bellator 220. So I'll watch that and then probably watch Fort Lauderdale afterwards.
See, I'm more intrigued by the UFC card. Bellator, I think, have a good enough offering. I think they have a lot of relevant names on that card. And that McDonald Fitch fight does sound very interesting to me, as is Phil Davis versus Liam McGeary. But at the same time, man, I think the more action is going to be in Florida, man. I think there's some more potential for a lot of exciting matches for UFC Fight Night 150. So that's kind of where my intention will be. But I'm going to be of the ilk that wants to watch both at the same time. I'll see, like, it's always a fun setup when I try to do that. So what I'll do, like I'm having right now, I've got an old TV that's hooked up to this laptop, and I'll split screen. I'll watch Bellator on the small TV. I'll have my Twitter and everything up on my laptop screen with the UFC fight on the television. So that's probably going to be my setup. I forgot to read the percentage of the results. So 38% are saying they're going to be watching Fight Night 150. 14, well, just round up to 15%, say they're going to be watching Bellator 220. We'll round up to 32% saying they're going to watch both at the same time. About 7% saying neither. And 9% will be watching Avengers instead. So in this era of streaming, hey, why not? You know, if you got those tickets to watch the greatest cinematic event known to mankind, an event so insane that you thought it was produced by One Championship Studios. Hey.
What do you think of that, huh? Making movies now there, Anthony.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, we'll see.
You know, if they called you, said, Anthony Walker, you're very sexy. We could really use you for one of these roles in our One Championship films. You know, you'd be all over it.
Let's put it this way. If someone from One called me and said those exact same words, I'll say first, yes, you have great taste. If you're calling to call me sexy, yes, you're absolutely right. But I would also say, yeah, sign me up. Yeah, I'm gonna do that shit. What you think, man? I'm trying to turn on this check. Trying to get this bag, baby. Come on, One, cut the check, One. Cut the check. All right, so let's take a moment to go back to the YouTube chat for just a moment here. Let's see here. We've got Mike S saying he's going to watch UFC Fight Night 150. Sean 37 saying Florida card will be just bleed. Yes, that's exactly what I'm anticipating as well. Designated member saying he prefer to watch good fighters over good athletes, which curious, but he's watching Greg Hardy. No, actually, no. That was designated member speaking for Frank McEgger. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right. Sean 37 is saying, don't sign until I get a proper deal. So, yeah, Chatri, got to check Chatri. Yeah, I ain't gonna sign on the movie if y'all ain't trying to pay a brother what he deserves. But I'm trying to get in the movie, so you go ahead. Well, I'm easy to negotiate with. We'll talk.
I mean, maybe you sort of look like Chatri. Maybe you can play Chatri in the biopic. You sort of look like him, I'm guessing.
Oh, you're one of those people that don't see color, huh?
Yeah, I don't. No, I don't.
You one of them all lives matters motherfuckers.
We all look the
same. All right, so We Been Here has a very good point. He says, last Saturday was supposed to be a mediocre card, and it ended up being a fun night. Fair enough. At least from bit that I saw. I did enjoy that. Let's see what else. Oh yes, and Frank McEgger says Hardy by KO. Enjoy the show. All right.
Wow, he loves this guy.
Hey, you know what? Frank might have earned his spot though again, because we need a little dissension. We agree too much.
Well, great minds think alike, so
that is true. That is true.
Sexy recognizes sexy, no?
Sexy does recognize sexy. that is absolutely true. All right, so we're going to kick it off with who you got. Of course, that's the segment that normally ends this show. So, Jason, Bellator 220, who you got? Phil Davis versus Liam McGeary 2.
I'm going to go Phil Davis. When I interviewed him this week, I did ask him, is there a reason to, add wrinkles to your game plan, change things up, keep it a little fresh, keep Liam McGeary a little off balance? And his short answer was pretty much no. It was pretty much like, you've got to do – stick. You don't want to. Yeah, it's tempting to maybe change some things, but he pretty much said verbatim, which it should be in the article. I have to remember this guy for 25 minutes of a 25-minute fight. His game plan didn't work, and he has to throw that entire game plan out the window. So he'll let Liam McGeary worry about changing things. He was dominant in the first fight over 5 rounds, which was, I think that might have been like the first or second Bellator I ever got credentialed for. And McGeary has the skills on the ground. He's crafty on the ground. He's maybe dangerous on the feet. But I think just Phil Davis has a specific style that is based around McGeary's weaknesses. He's hard to submit. It's going to be hard to submit Phil Davis. So I see Phil Davis probably winning another grinding 3-round fight this time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Phil Davis pulls off a pretty slow-paced decision. And, that's not to say that McGeary can't have some success on the feet with his hands.
Yeah.
Phil Davis has always kind of had that odd hole in his game where, like, his hands weren't always that effective, but he could kick you and he could wrestle you, and those two just blend in a very strange way. But I think when all is said and done, I think he'll be able to impose superior strength and take advantage of his very, very, very strong wrestling base and shut down the submission attempts of Liam McGeary. And I think he does have enough with the hands, definitely has enough with the kicks to keep McGeary kind of off balance on the stand-up. And I think that's how he gets the win by decision. All right, so McFarlane versus Veda Ortega, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick against Liam McFarlane in this fight. Veda Ortega's a good fighter. She's, if you've ever watched Emmanuel Sanchez, the Bellator featherweight, very similar. High output, aggressive, going forward. Not necessarily super great at any one thing, but solid everywhere. But I just think Alima is really coming along. Her strike is coming along. She's nasty on the ground, despite fighting Valerie Turno and I forgot her last opponent before that. But she says Veda Ortega is her toughest test to date because of that aggressive, push forward, don't give a damn kind of style. But I still see Liam McFarlane. I will go probably second round submission.
Yeah, McFarlane gets a finish in this one. I mean, she is she's there for a reason. She's
legit.
Improves drastically every fight. I think we're scratching the surface of what she's capable of, and I think she does some work Saturday. So I got McFarlane. All right, the main event of Bellator 220: Rory McDonald versus John Fitch. Jason, who you got?
I mean, I'm going to pick Rory, but like I said earlier, I'm fascinated to see how he bounces back from that Mousasi fight because he got really just dominated on a level he's never been before. If you would ask me maybe 2 years ago when he first got to Bellator, I would say, oh my God, he can beat Fitch whatever way he wants, but you never know how someone comes back from something like that, especially since he's been in such brutal wars on his nose, on his face. He's a young guy, but still it's a lot of wear and tear. He probably gets by John Fitch, I think, and I think he should be able to dominate the next round against Neiman Gracie. That one really fascinates me, and that could happen here at MSG in New York City in June. So, but I'm going to pick Rory McDonald.
I got Rory McDonald winning this, and I do have a lot of concerns about how he bounces back from the Gegard Mousasi loss, but I think this is the perfect opponent for him to come back to.
Yeah.
This is about as high level of a guy as you can get in the Bellator welterweight division, and get the stylistic matchup that favors you trying to bounce back. I mean, it'd be one thing if we're talking about Rory McDonald rematching Douglas Lima. I think that's a whole nother monster. We're talking, or even if even if Rory McDonald was making his return against Michael Venom Page or Paul Daly, guys who hit hard or accurate with their strikes and can target that face and can target that nose in particular and kind of get him hesitant to do what he does best. That, I think, will be more dangerous to him right now than a guy like John Fitch, who has the potential to beat you, but he's going to beat you in a very particular fashion. Yeah. He's going to beat you in a fashion that isn't necessarily going to harm you. He's just going to control you. And while that there might be some sort of hesitance or a dialed back version of Rory McDonald based on what we saw against Mousasi and how his recovery of that has gone, I don't think it lasts long against a guy like Fitch. I think he gets in there and he realizes, even if he does start off slow or something, he realizes, okay, this isn't the guy that's going to hurt me. And now, without that being in the back of his mind, yeah, I think he picks up the pace and he cruises to a very easy win here. So you'll see Fort Lauderdale. Jason, who you got? Cowboy Oliveira versus Mike Perry.
This one was tough. My first gut was like Perry, but then Oliveira is fairly well-rounded. He's double tough. He's wily. Man, it went back to what I was saying earlier. I feel like Oliveira will be smart enough he'll go try to take him down, get him down, and submit him. I think Oliveira will probably win by like submission third round.
I'm kind of leaning in that direction too, and it's not because anything against what Mike Perry has to offer, but he tries to offer things he doesn't have sometimes.
Yes.
You know, you're trying to get into a wrestling exchange with Donald Cerrone.
Yep.
And then actually stating that you were surprised by the submissions that follow, where it's just like Cerrone has a long track record of being a submission artist. So you would think that Perry would have better fight IQ in those moments. And while Oliveira is somebody who definitely will engage you pretty much anywhere you want, I think the moment that Perry decides he wants to engage on the ground, I think that's where Oliveira does his business. And at some point, he locks him in for a submission. All right, so Greg Hardy versus Dmitry Smolikov. We know how Frank McEgger thinks on this. Captain Credential.
Frank McEgger thinks Greg Hardy's going to come in on like a cloud with a halo around us, like the harps playing, and it's going to be a beautiful moment. I tell you, Greg Hardy, he should win. I think you said everything fair, that this guy's dug up to fight him, but I just was unimpressed by his performance at the moment. Now there's even more pressure on him in this one. He could say against it all he wants. I went on a limb here and I picked Smolyakov. I feel like maybe he'll get him down and he'll submit him. He has a good ground game and he'll take advantage of those weaknesses any kind of newbie fighter that isn't a wrestler has. I might be one of the few saying that, but I'm gonna pick Smolyakov. I think he might get him.
I'm not mad at that pick, especially after what we saw from Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
But I think the UFC realized, okay, we can't pair him up with this guy. Why am I forgetting who Greg Hardy fought last time? But we can't pair him up with that guy. So let's dig deeper in the barrel. Let's and that's essentially what they've done. They've stooped lower to find someone. Yeah. So they definitely found someone of the caliber for Greg Hardy to beat, and even just on a pure athletic advantage. I don't honestly. I'll be very surprised if this fight makes it out of the 3-minute mark. I'll be very surprised.
Yeah. If he can survive that crazy tirade early, I think he definitely beats him. But yeah, that's the thing. He's gonna come out like a hell on fire, a wheel, crazy.
Yeah, like I just don't see this guy making it very long, and Hardy's going to get a win, and and then he'll be the co-main event star of the future, or maybe they'll say screw it, let's put him in the main event, and then he'll be fighting some guy kicking a can down the street or something for the main event, the next ESPN card. Pass. All right. Okay, where's my screen now? Let me pull the next question. Oh yes, Jacare Souza versus Jack Hermanson. Jason, who you got?
like I mentioned, I'm gonna go with Hermanson. I feel he's well rounded enough. He's young. He's on a hot streak. He's doing well. He's on the way up. Sousa's still great, but Sousa still had trouble with even Weidman. Was probably losing that fight at points. He just eventually wore Weidman down. I just feel at 39, time is just against you. Like the fall off and the drop off can be so sudden, so fast. Huge Sousa fan. I think he's the best fighter to never get a world championship opportunity, but I just feel like we'll get a surprise. And the guy that comes in last minute, we don't expect. We feel like he's probably getting fed to the veteran fighter. I'm going to go with Hermanson.
I do like Hermanson. I think he does have an opportunity to win this fight, but I think it's mainly based on whether or not Jacare looks old when that fight starts. Jacare is a guy who's kind of defied Father Time so far. Yeah. He's had a couple of wars in his most recent fights, Chris Weidman and Kelvin Gastelum. He's had took a lot of damage in both of those fights. So there is that possibility that bell rings Saturday night and Jacare looks like 40-year-old Jacare, where he doesn't look like the world beater that he's been in the past. But I don't think that necessarily happens with Hermanson. Hermanson, his last couple of wins have been by submission. I have a feeling, man, that he's, after submitting a guy like David Branch, who is a very, very legit jiu-jitsu black belt, I think Hermanson might come in there feeling his ground game a little bit too much. And you don't want to start playing in the ground game with Jacare, and I don't care how old Jacare is. That's just not a world that you want a part of. It'd be one thing if this fight was contested on the feet, but even then, I think Jacare is the better technical striker out of the two. Maybe as we see, he still has some chin left, unless it's gone now after the Weidman and Gastelum wars. Perhaps there's something there, but I just don't think Hermanson is going to have enough to stay on his feet, or the desire to stay on his feet. And Jacare is going to tap him out probably somewhere late in the second.
Fair enough.
All right. So our last question, this is from Europe One. He asked, and this we touched on this just a little bit.
I like how he still keeps calling them ONE FC. It's one championship.
And ONE FC just sounds cooler. Okay, Chatri.
Not ONE FC, it's one champion.
ONE FC sounds cooler, okay?
It doesn't.
It's easier to write too. I'm so tired of typing one championship, one championship, one championship. I just want to type ONE FC. That's it.
No.
Sick of your shit, credential boy.
Get out of here.
All right. Yeah, you're sick. You know what? Oh, Frank is moving in the co-main event. All right, so here we go. Europe One with our final question of the evening. I'll scan the chat, see if there's any good things there. He has ONE FC is opening its own movie studio. I am not kidding. They say that they want to create the new Jackie Chan or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. What will come of this? Do you think that it's something fighters will enjoy and take advantage of? What fighters do you see getting the push? And lastly, was this what Jason Burgos whispered in Chachi's ear when they had lunch together?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yes, Europe One.
It was
Jason.
It was movies. Do movies. It was just like that. See, it makes you want to open a studio, right? I know it does.
I feel like starring in a motion picture as we speak.
There you go. I was as surprised as everybody, but not crazy surprised. WWE has WWE Studios, and they make like straight to digital, straight to video movies for a while now with some of their wrestlers and stuff like that. So, maybe I don't know what the cinema market is in Asia. I mean, China, hell, they're expecting. China just had the biggest opening ever with Avengers Endgame, and they're expecting it to be bigger than the domestic opening here in the U.S. So, I mean, clearly there's a movie market in China and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Maybe they got some Chinese or some Asian fighters they put in a movie, and they do some classic martial arts stuff, and it hits. It all matters on what they spend, I guess. As long as they're not spending huge money and they got backing and maybe they find somebody. I thought it was odd, but again, I don't think they throw money at something they felt they weren't going to make something out of. So maybe they're not even really funding it. Maybe it's just their name on it and it's the brand and somebody else running it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you do raise a very good point in that. Like, But I think this is kind of consistent with some of the things that we've heard about from One Championship that they haven't quite gone public with. For instance, the esports thing. And that's something that I asked Demetrius Johnson about, and he couldn't give too many details. And this was something that they really are very big on. And esports is huge, a lot of money in that, probably more money than the entire mixed martial arts world. So I do think it's in line with the company's goals. They, of course, I'm the first person, as anybody who watches the show on a semi-regular basis knows, that will criticize the hell out of some One Championship.
No way.
Despite, for the record, once again, I do love the product. I think they put on great fights.
Tell me about the kickboxing in a cage. You love to mention.
I do love kickboxing in a cage with MMA gloves. Yes, I love it. I love it. It is fantastic to me. But they beyond the hyperbole, beyond the different solar systems that they broadcast to, or whatever the case may be, they have a lot of good ideas. They have a lot of good things that can touch onto a broader fan base. And yes, there is a bigger world outside of America, and in the entertainment world, there's a bigger world outside of just Hollywood. There's a huge movie market that takes place around the globe. And I think they are on to something here. They don't necessarily have to make blockbuster hits. They don't have to make the next Avengers franchise or the next James Bond franchise. They don't have to do that. If they are successful with direct-to-video releases, or all the streaming movies that we subscribe to, if you can sell a movie to Netflix, like Netflix paid, I think it was something like 90 million for Bright, if I'm not mistaken on that number. So there's big money in streaming services taking movie rights.
Nicolas Cage still has a career somehow, and he's never been in movies and theaters in a long time.
Yeah, Adam Sandler as well. Adam Sandler, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock. These are big names that sign these huge deals with these streaming services. And I think this is something that one could be tapping into. You combine that with the esports. You combine that with the fact that everywhere outside of the United States, you can watch all of their products free on this app that they have. There is some sort of synergy there. There is something that is there. It's something that can be worked with. I am not saying that they're going to be competing with Paramount Studios. I'm not saying that Chaudhry is the new Raymond Chow. I'm not saying that. Like that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that there's other money to make than gate revenue, than pay-per-view dollars, than selling merchandise, than fight kits. There's more money out there to be made. We just saw on I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but Sage Northcutt posted some sort of video that was like him playing Ken in some sort of Street Fighter thing. And there is a niche for that. That sort of thing can definitely exist. A guy like Sage Northcutt can be boosted up into a star. He was also very actively campaigning to play Ivan Drago's son in Creed 2. So these are people with ambitions outside of just fighting in a cage. And that's why Demetrius Johnson is at one. That's why Sage Northcutt is at one. So yes, these things do exist. And I think Chaudhry might be onto something here. This might actually reach all those different solar systems, the 90 trillion for the best ever event that's ever taken place in the history of humanity.
I think someone else from Sherdog is going to want to be talking to Chaudhry soon. I feel there's a turn going on.
Hey,
it's a little turn.
Hey, Chaudhry, holla at your boy, okay? I am available for bookings. I am sexy. I'm ready to go. Yes. I'm trying to get my close-up. What up? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and scan this chat real quick. Europe One agrees that we don't have to say One Championship. One FC sounds so much cooler. He also adds power to the ant. So yes, power to you too, Europe One.
What does that
Frank
mean?
McEgger. That means just power to me, man. Stop hating. What's wrong with you? He's just such a hater. Why are you
now Europe One's trying to get this co-hosting role. He sees a weakness in Frank McEgger, and now he's trying to get in here.
You know what? I think you're just hating. You're just hating, man. Why you got to be a hater? I'm the hater, okay? Let me be the hater. You're supposed to be the nice, positive guy. Come on now. Do better, Jason. Do better. All right. Frank McEgger just adds in karate combat is the shit. Yes, I agree. Karate combat is dope. I love it. We've been here asked about Arlovsky versus Sakai, potential death on either side in the octagon. Yeah, that's going to be a mixed bag. I honestly have no idea what we're going to see there, and I'm happy that wasn't on the Who You Got segment. I think I have to make picks on that for the staff picks, but I'd like to think about it a little more. So, yeah, good call on that one. We've been here also says Perry by KO, Joker by KO, Hardy by steroids.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah. So we got everybody else leaving their fight picks. And Mike S says, great show as always, guys. Thank you, Mike, for that.
Okay.
All right. So I guess that'll do it, man. So Jason, let the people know where they can find you. What do you have coming up on Sherdog.com?
As always, Cheap Seats Chat on Instagram and Twitter. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube page, the Sherdog page. Subscribe so you can see all our videos. Subscribe to my YouTube page. You can find me Jason Burgos. Today was actually a busy day. I had the Nate Andrews PFL story, which was pretty good in that he actually a teammate of his manager actually asked a UFC matchmaker interest in him. This guy's 15-1. He was the CES champion. Won all his fights by stoppage, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, Nate Andrews, he's good, but there's something about him I just don't like." That's crazy. So he actually gave up on his hopes to go in the UFC. He's now with the PFL. You can read that story and hear the audio in the article or on my YouTube. Elimele McFarland story's up on Sherdog. Also, the audio's up there and on my YouTube. And my Mike Schiavello story, the voice of One Championship, was really, really good. He gave me 30 minutes of time, talked all kinds of stuff like TJ Dillashaw, PD, Shinya Aoki in Japan, Angela Lee losing, if she could bounce back, a lot of stuff. Even talking about the difference between a fighter and a martial artist. That was good. And tomorrow, I think I'll probably have the Phil Davis story for Bellator 220 and Kira Batara, who's fighting on the Combate Americas Reyna's card, which is an all-woman's main card on broadcast television, which is actually historic at first. So, but those are the stuff. That's the stuff I have it up. Also, I talked this week to the CEO of World Lethweight Championship. It is a kickboxing-based sport that's like centuries old from Myanmar, where it's gloveless, it's hand wraps instead of gloves, and there's headbutting allowed. I'll talk to him about a lot of things. I've collected another CEO, and that started probably next week. But that was interesting. They actually think about coming to the U.S. to do events. They're broadening horizons. That was actually pretty cool. But that's pretty much it for me.
All right, so I can be found on Twitter at Walker MMA. That is also the Instagram name. And yes, I still don't post a lot, but follow me anyway. So as far as what I have coming up for Sherdog.com, tomorrow, got an article going live related to the Titan FC 54 main event. Got to speak with the featherweight champion there, Jason Soares, who will be defending his title for the second time. And this is also, Titan FC is also the location for the next edition of Looking for a Fight. So Dana White and company will be in building. It's a great opportunity for the fighters on that card, to take that big leap into the UFC. And Jason Soares spoke with me for a few minutes about the desire to fight and on the big stage and his upcoming opponent switch and whatnot. So check for that as well. I did post audio on the Walkout Network as well. So that article will be live tomorrow morning. Also, Ask Ant will be live tomorrow as well. I'll write that as soon as I get back from dinner this evening. So I'll answer some of the leftover questions from the show and maybe revisit a couple things that perhaps I didn't elaborate on enough during this broadcast. So check Sherdog.com for that as well. Should have another video in the queue for MMA On Point. I can't even remember what my last script I wrote was about, but I guess you'll see it when I retweet that thing. So aside from that, that's about it. And you know what to do, man. So for Jason Burgos, I'm Ant Walker. Yes, you must stay beautiful. You must stay positive. And no matter what, when you're watching Avengers Endgame and those tears roll down your face as Captain America or Iron Man or Thor or one of our other beloved heroes dies, you got to just sip your cherry Coke, smile, and stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.